Okay, it is 3 o'clock. We do have a quorum, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I don't think we have anybody special we need to introduce. Got a list of everyone online. So at this point, we'll move on to agenda item number 2 to approve the agenda. If you've all had an opportunity to look at that, need a motion.
I believe that dies for the lack of a motion. Does that mean? No, I'm just kidding. Well, someone will move it.
I so moved.
I'll
Miley
second it.
moved.
This is
Miley
Miley.
moved and Ann seconded. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, hearing none, the agenda is accepted. Okay, we'll move on to some consent items now. Anyone wishing to address? Is there anyone online? I guess I should ask Jared.
We got public comment, which is after the consent item, so we can do consent
Okay,
first.
okay,
If that works for you.
Okay.
Which is just a meeting of minutes from the last meeting.
okay. I'm trying to hurry the meeting along, going too fast here. Okay, did everyone have an opportunity to look at meeting minutes from last time? If so, we need a motion to accept those or change them.
As Gary Sugar, I move the minutes be accepted as published.
Okay, Gary made the motion, a second.
Roland Rainey, I second.
And Roland second. Okay, any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, the minutes are accepted. Okay, moving. Having a bifocal moment here, the screen moved. Okay, public comments, presentations. Do we have any, Jerry?
So I will go and do my spiel. It looks like everyone who is online are either staff members or presenters, but I will just say that if anyone who does not fit into any of those categories would like to use the raise hand function, in case I miss anybody, while we're letting people find the raise hand function on Microsoft Teams, I will just say that we do not have anyone in the room who are not members or staff, and we did not receive any advanced requests for public comment, and we did not receive any submitted public comments. And as I stalled for time a little bit, no one has raised their hand online. So, Mr. Chair, I think we can proceed.
Okay, we'll proceed on to action items then. And item A, regional freight study. This is something that Jason presented last month. Jason, you're online, I believe.
Yep.
Do you have any additional comments or anything you want to add to what you did last month?
Nope, nothing additional. There have only been minor corrections, no substantive changes since that time. Public comment had already been completed prior to the information item last month, so nothing additional.
Okay. Having nothing additional at this point, unless we have some questions, I'll open it up for a motion to accept.
Oh, this is Miley. I'll go ahead and do the proposed motion. Recommend that the PPACT board adopt the freight study as presented.
And we have a second.
Gary Sugar, I second.
And Gary seconded. Any additional discussion? Kind of stalling here just in case with the lag. Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that's adopted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Thank
time,
you.
Jason. We appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item B. I believe Jessica, you're presenting on that is.
Yes, hi there.
Oh, there
Chair.
you
Good
are.
afternoon.
I was looking, I didn't see
Hello.
you on the screen, Jess. Okay,
Good
yeah, if you want to
afternoon.
take over, Jessica, and do your presentation.
Sure, yeah. I'll be quick and brief. I brought this to you guys last month for information and to allow you plenty of time to review the FY 25-29 draft tip document. So nothing really has changed in the document itself. It's just going through the motions of the committee process at this point. And This time it's for action before you, and it's to open up a 30-day public comment period. So if you're okay with it, it will be moved on to the board to open that period up, and any questions, comments, things like that can be sent to me at my email, which is listed in the memo. Any questions that you guys have for me now? All the major highlights were highlighted in the document in yellow. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I am not seeing any questions. If there are no questions, can we have a motion?
We cannot.
I,
I'll move
Tyler,
to
did you make the
accept.
okay, Ann did. Okay, is there a second to accept to move this on to the board?
Teresa Cheek, I'll second.
And Teresa second. Okay, any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on. Item C, who's presenting that?
Yep.
The
So
tip
the next
amendment
one, I'll
request?
kick it off if that
It's
would be
Jess and
okay.
then Jeff. Yep.
Jess and Jeff, okay.
Yep. So the next one again, it's the CDOT tip amendment pre-approval request. And so what this item is CDOT's pre-approval request to ensure expedited formal action of projects noted within the memo that they sent. And what they're asking to do is get a pre-approval to move funding within the tip should they need it when they go to bid on certain projects. And I have CDOT on the line. I believe Jeff is here. If there's questions outside of what was presented in the memos. Any questions on what we're looking at here?
Could you expand a little bit on the pre-approval? Will that be by the board?
Yes, so
Okay.
basically it's asking to be able to move the funding from two projects that are already in the tip that have out year funding into these two other projects that are within the current year should they need funding to be awarded contracts right now. So and that's just in case the scope comes back and the estimates are too high. So those are the projects they're listed under 1 and 2, where they would basically move money from future projects into current projects.
Okay, and we have John online as well.
Yeah, good explanation, Jess. I just want to make sure that, Ed, we're clear. This will go on to the board for approval, but once the board approves it, it puts in place a contingency that will not go back to the board.
Right.
Basically, the reason for this is that when CDOT puts out the bids, those bids that they receive are only good for 30 days. And so
Okay.
our process takes more than 30 days. So the idea is that this is a contingency that if everything goes according to plan and they get acceptable bids, they'll just move forward. If they do not receive bids for the price that they've anticipated, this allows them to go ahead and do an administrative tip amendment so
Gotcha.
that they can move the money and the two target projects are there. And then so if they need to sort of take money from both projects, they'll do that. If they don't, they'll don't. But this sort of puts everything in place so that they can move forward in an expedited fashion, because again, our process takes a little too long. So sorry to interrupt you, Jess. I just wanted to make sure we
Perfect.
clarified that this
Okay.
item will go to the board, but then after the contingencies in place, it
It's just in
allows
case.
for the administrative amendments as necessary to move forward with the two different projects, or until the money runs out.
Okay, to both of you, thank you for the clarification. That's kind of what I needed. Any other questions? Okay, looking at the screen, I don't see anyone, but if anyone has a question, please raise your hand or shout out.
This
Okay.
is Ann.
Yes, Ann.
Well, this looks like a good idea because, I'm up in the mountains and I know they have to move quickly. Weather is always a factor and all those things. So this looks like a good idea to me. I don't know if I quite understand, but it sounds good.
Kind of streamlining.
Yeah,
We occasionally like to break out of the bureaucratic mold and do things that make sense, you know.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, not seeing any. Could I have a motion to accept this? Not anybody
Maddie
wants.
Gullerson from Colorado Springs. I moved to accept.
Okay, and do we have a second?
And
This is
And did
Miley
you
Foster. I'll second.
Okay, Miley. I was watching my screen there and it looked like a couple of you were trying and couldn't get it through. Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That also carries.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, for doing all this.
Thank
And
you.
John,
And
appreciate it.
John.
Okay, we are on to 6A and look and see who's presenting that one.
I think Danelle is starting, and not sure that we had anyone from CDOT this time, but we will next time. But is that correct? Danelle's
That
nodding,
is
so that means I
correct.
got it right.
Okay.
Yes. So today we just have this as an informational item. So every year, CDOT is required by federal regulations to set a safety targets for the state. And it's a little bit of a unfortunate terminology to call it a target because obviously CDOT doesn't want this number of fatalities and this fatality rate and the number of serious injuries. It's really a mathematical kind of equation that they're putting together based on the past 5-10 years of data that they have to project the future calendar year targets. So we don't want to confuse this with aspirational targets, but we do want to bring this information to you. These are the targets that CDOT has set for the state. And then as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, we as PPACG are required to either set our own targets or to support the targets that the state has set. And I don't know that PPACG has ever set our own targets. We've always supported what the state has set. There's no real benefit to us to do that on our own. So if Jared has the PowerPoint up, if you slide down to that first screen, these are the targets that CDOT has sent or has set. And as a comparison on the right-hand side, those are the actual numbers for calendar year 2022. And they've included that information because the numbers for 2023 aren't quite in yet. So you can just sort of see a comparison of the actuals from 2022 versus on the left there. Those are the targets they have set for the next year. And if you scroll down to the next slide, these are actually the trend of fatalities in the state. And again, like I said, these are the numbers that they're using to try to project what's going to happen in the coming years. And then the following slide there does the same thing, but for serious injuries. And I believe that's the last slide. I do have some updated numbers. CDOT was kind enough to send me not only the Colorado fatalities and serious injuries, but also our PPACG County fatalities and serious injuries. So I can send those out to everyone so that you can see those and share them. And be happy to take any questions at this time. John is here and can kind of back me up. He's correct that CDOT wasn't able to join us today, but they will be here next month to answer any questions you might have. Feel free to send me questions in the meantime. And again, in the January meeting, we will be asking for a motion to recommend that we support CDOT's target.
Okay, Miley has a question.
The increased fatalities, or all the numbers have really increased, are they just a reflection of the increased population, the increased number of vehicles on the road? And it's the more people you have, the more accidents you have. And so would a more meaningful number be like a percentage or something?
That is a question we actually talked about a little bit at our Transportation Advisory Committee as well, because obviously Colorado is growing and growing quite quickly in some areas. Vehicle miles traveled has been growing. Unfortunately, because of the way the federal regulations are written, these are the targets that are required. So they don't take into account the crashes per person or the crashes per vehicle mile traveled, other than this that second one, that fatality rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. That one does take into account a little bit the increase in cars and people.
Okay, thank you.
One other question, Danelle, does the eroding of our roads and deterioration, is that playing a factor in this at all, or is it just drivers' bad habits, or do we know?
That's a great question. And I don't know that we have a full picture of that. I think CDOT probably has its own thoughts on that matter. I will say we at PPACG are actually doing a small crash causation study because we have noticed some differences in trends, particularly since 2020 to now. So we did want to kind of do some investigation into changes in driver behavior or other reasons that might be causing increases in crashes. But I can certainly pass that question along to CDOT as well and see if they have a statewide answer.
Hey, John's on.
Yeah, so Jason, are you still on? So that crash causation study that Danelle had mentioned, so there's not hard data on, road condition versus fatalities. But that being said, in some of the anecdotal sorts of things that we're getting from this crash causation study, there seems to be some support for the idea of that what the roadway looks like and sort of what's in the median and the traveling does have an impact on people's attitudes as they're driving. Jason can say this much more eloquently than I can, but that's basically it. So statistically, we don't really have data to answer your question, but anecdotally, I think we'll see when that crash causation study becomes complete, that there is something to people dodging potholes and paying more attention to the potholes than they are to the road, as well as the overall, for lack of a better term, aesthetic of the roadway and the impact on their driving behaviors.
Yeah, I think even poorly painted lines and things play a role.
Yes.
My opinion.
Right. Well, and I drove into it today. I couldn't see any white lines because the whole road was white. Well, I live on the northwest side. People down in Fountain, like Jared, they think it was paradise the last 2 days, but up north, we had nothing but snow.
Yes.
It was blue skies, but Jason is no longer on the call, so he can't go into more detail.
Okay. Anyone else with a question?
Hey, Tyler Peoples here. I had a question about how can we learn more about these fatalities, maybe to find out how many of them had substance use as a contributing factor, and whether that's increased by what amount, if there's any significant information that involving substance use in the fatalities.
Absolutely. There's actually two different ways. Colorado CDOT does have a dashboard that I can share with you all that keeps track of all of the fatalities and serious injury crashes in the state. And you can actually filter that by crashes that involve substances. So you can kind of see over the years. In addition to that, PPACG actually takes data from all of the sources in the region and maps those. So we have on our website, and it's a little bit out of date just because it takes quite a while to get to us and then place those all properly. But we do have that on our website where you can look at the location of all of the crashes in the past 5 years. I think it's actually 2017 through 2022 right now. And that as well does have information about impaired driving.
And you'll send out a separate email with the link?
I certainly can do that, yes.
Is that cool?
Thank you. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Be good. I
Okay,
was going
anyone
to
else? Oh, Ann, go ahead.
And I haven't read it yet because I read it online, but I believe today there's an article in the Gazette about that very thing, substance abuse and what's contributing to our rising death toll in Colorado. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Anyone else? Well, Danelle, thank you very much. Excellent presentation. And you said next month or near future, you'll bring that back?
Yes, in January we'll bring this back.
Great, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank
In
you.
fact, that one has a time constraint. By federal regulations, it has to be approved by the board. So when we come back to you next time for adoption, correct me if I'm wrong, Danelle, we pretty much need adoption next month. So if anybody has any questions, let us know now because it's not something that we'll be able to table for a month. Is that correct, Danelle?
That is correct.
Sometimes I get stuff correct.
We're required to support that target by the end of February, and since board is toward the middle of February, we will need that next month.
Okay. Anyone else with a question since we're on a timeline? Well, thank you very much, Danelle. And
thank you.
And as we're moving on here, member announcements, comments. And I was asked by Welling Clark to pass one on. He's visiting Luxor in Egypt today, and he was unable to get online. His wife instructed him that he wouldn't live to come home if he did. So anyway, announcement made.
You know, and that's a pretty impressive casino. That spotlight goes way up. Oh, not that Luxor.
Yeah, he's over by the Nile.
He's at the real one. All right.
He's at the real one.
Because if you don't think so, you'd just be in denial.
Oh, John.
Hey, we're in the room with him. The rest of no. Well, anyway, if anyone else have any questions, comments, or anything else? We tried to rush the meeting today so that we didn't burden your time, but
that's
a lot was accomplished. Ann, did you have something?
Oh, just Happy New Year, everybody. Hope everybody's safe and stays well. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Well, hearing none, I echo what Ann said. Happy New Year, and thank you for participating today. A lot was accomplished in a brief amount of time, so thank you. And we are adjourned.